headed up by a man known in Latin American telenovelas as El Macho. This is the Daniel Natal Show. Conservative circles were abuzz last weekend when it was announced that Kyle Rittenhouse had been released on bond last Friday. According to the Chicago Tribune, Kyle Rittenhouse was released from jail in Wisconsin on Friday afternoon after his attorneys posted $2 million bail, setting the teenager free as he awaits trial for fatally shooting two men and wounding a third during summer protests in Kenosha, police said. His release came over the objections of family members and lawyers for two of the men he shot. They had asked for a higher bail and voiced concerns that Rittenhouse would flee, which his lawyers have said he would not. The 17-year-old's release was funded by donations sought by his attorneys, who appealed to the political right, where Rittenhouse is popular. Two of the people responsible for helping Kyle were beloved pillow merchant Mike Lindell of MyPillow fame and based former child star Rick Schroeder. Leaving aside the superficial events, the case was similar insofar as it echoed the earlier case of Ahmaud Arbery, where two civic-minded individuals placed a citizen's arrest on a man being chased by the police. Arbery, with a long history of criminal activity and suspected of yet more burglaries, struggled to escape, and he went for the gun of one of the men, and unfortunately he was fatally shot. The media immediately jumped into action to demonize the civic-minded men who tried to help the police in detaining Arbery. This was similar to Kyle Rittenhouse, where the teen shot two adults who attacked him as he behaved in a civic-minded fashion and tried to prevent looting and destruction during a riot. In both cases, the criminals were sanctified by the media, and the civic-minded people were told not to try to aid law enforcement. They should be passive, inactive, they're told. It's the police's job to maintain law and order, and the rest of us are supposed to stay out of it. In the 1860s, John Stuart Mill wrote about how toxic a mindset that was, and how that eroded the very underpinnings of a republic. A republic, he says, should have a small police force because the citizens act as an auxiliary force to assist them. He writes, quote, "But there are also cases in which, though not averse to a form of government, possibly even desiring it, a people may be unwilling or unable to fulfill its conditions. They may be incapable of fulfilling such of them as are necessary to keep the government even in nominal existence. Thus a people may prefer a free government, but if from indolence or carelessness or cowardice or want of public spirit they are unequal to the exertions necessary for preserving it, if they will not fight for it when it is directly attacked, if they can be deluded by the artifices used to cheat them out of it, if by momentary discouragement or temporary panic or a fit of enthusiasm for an individual they can be induced to lay their liberties at the feet of a great man or trust him with powers which enable him to subvert their institutions, in all these cases they are more or less unfit for liberty, and though it may be for their good to have had it even for a short time, they are unlikely long to enjoy it." And he goes on to add, "Again, a people must be considered unfit for more than a limited and qualified freedom, who will not cooperate actively with the law and the public authorities in the repression of evildoers. A people who are more disposed to shelter a criminal than to apprehend him, who, like the Hindus, will perjure themselves to screen the man who has robbed them, rather than take the trouble to expose themselves to vindictiveness by giving evidence against him, who, like some nations of Europe down to a recent date, if a man poniards another in the public street, pass by on the other side because it is the business of the police to look to the matter, and it is safer not to interfere with what does not concern them. A people who are revolted by an execution but not shocked at an assassination require that the public authorities should be armed with much sterner powers of repression than elsewhere, since the first indispensable requisites of civilized life have nothing else to rest on." Basically, what Mill is saying is that if you don't help the police, then you're creating a situation in which the society needs a much larger police force, and that lends itself to being a police state. Mill praised America for its limited government and engaged populace at the time. We helped the police. Because the law-abiding citizens acted as de facto deputies, we didn't need a massive police state. Mill says that to have a republic, you need an active populace. He adds that all that's required in a tyranny is that the people be passive and obedient. Notice how the mainstream media is calling on people to be passive and obedient, to let the criminals rule the streets and not to interfere with their crime sprees in any way, like in the example that Mill uses of a man being mugged and just crossing to the other side of the street and looking the other way. It's the police's business, not yours, right? That's what the media is telling you. They're prepping us to be a populace that conduces toward a tyranny. John Stuart Mill has a great image in his book, Considerations on Representative Government. He says that republics rely on the people, so they're very stable, like a pyramid that's resting on its base. An oligarchy, by contrast, doesn't operate for the people, but for a tiny elite at the top, so it's like an inverted pyramid balanced precariously on its tip. This is why oligarchies are inherently unstable. Feel any instability lately in America? Could reading the New American magazine boost your heart health, support your immune system, and help you lose 20 pounds of unsightly fat? The answer is no, but you should read it anyway to stay informed. Putting the MAGA in magazine. Check out thenewamerican.com.